to look at the Red Cliff Ojibwe Nation and take kind of an inventory of their economic systems.
Yeah, so the purpose of our paper was to obviously display the economic activity throughout the Red Cliff Reservation, and we wanted to do this by kind of creating a timeline and a story in a way of how they got to where they are today, which included the origin story, the treaty making process, and kind of wrapping it up with the current status of the Red Cliff Reservation and their economy today.
And when we talk about tradition and origins, we're looking at how the Ojibwe people historically lived, what they did to find sustenance, and even certain economic modes uh, as far back as pre-contact.
Yeah, and so in this process, we obviously had to talk about the treaty making process, since that's such an important part of every tribal nation, not just Red Cliff. And specifically, we focused a little bit more on the 1837 treaty and the 1842 treaty, because those two treaties are the ones that specified that Ojibwe people could hunt, fish, and gather, not specifically on the reservation. They could do these as long as it was within the ceded territories.
And of course, those rights were not something that could be taken for granted. In fact, a lot of them disappeared over the years. And it took, two brothers deciding to challenge, the status quo and a Supreme Court case to restore those rights to hunt, fish, and gather on ceded territories.
Yeah, so obviously this is a native geography class, so we must look at the geographic location of where we are talking about. So as you can see, I circled kind of the Red Cliff area, and it is located in the northernmost tip of Wisconsin. It is also located in the Northern Highlands. And the Red Cliff area actually has some of the harshest conditions throughout all of Wisconsin. The median temperature throughout the year is only 40 to 44 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty chilly. Um, I also did a deep dive into the soil type that's up there that most of the slopes are composed of. We also looked at the topography of this area because we just wanted to see how that affects like tourism and people wanting to come visit, because there are some really unique features in the Red Cliff area.
And then to kind of one of our main topics, the economics of the area. So we looked at traditional practices and kind of the neat way that they carried over traditional ways of living into economic ventures, such as fishing and wild rice. If you haven't had smoked whitefish from the Red Cliff Nation, you're seriously missing out. But that's not all they have to offer today. There's a wide array of industries, mostly revolving around tourism. So catching those visitors to the Apostle Islands, having the destination resort of a casino, food, beverage, distilleries, all sorts of entertainment.
Yeah, and going from there, we then transitioned into contemporary issues and just like the contemporary state of the economy up in Red Cliff. Obviously, COVID-19 has affected a lot of communities throughout this last year and a half, and Red Cliff, unfortunately, is no exception to that. They have also had to shut down a lot of their businesses for a while, which impacted them. And the number of deaths and such like that, and such things as that, really affected their community as well.
Lastly, we kind of looked at climate change as kind of a looming threat. The ways in which it could potentially affect wildlife. Glyphwick has kind of an index of what species and populations are most vulnerable to climate change. And then we kind of just looked at the idea that there might be a need for more research on how the tourism industry itself could be exacerbating these issues of climate change.
Yeah, and that's the end of our PowerPoint. I didn't make an end slide, but yeah, we're super excited to share our research with you, and this was a really fun project for us to do.
Thanks so much.